At the 2020 Tokyo Olympics, Lamont Marcell Jacobs became one of the most unexpected champions we'd ever see.
No one was talking about him ahead of the heats. No one was talking about him ahead of this semi-finals.
His sudden rise was unlike any other 100-meter champion in history. The year prior, he wasn't even ranked top 20 globally. In the final, 6 athletes were pure 100-meter specialists. One was a 400-meter runner moving down, while Jacobs was a former long jumper forced into sprinting by injury. And Italy had never before produced a men's 100-meter medalist. He was undeniably a statistical anomaly. And afterwards, he didn't do much else. In the 4 seasons after Tokyo, he failed to reach 3 global finals. And in the one he did make, he did run surprisingly well, running the 3rd and 4th fastest times of his career for 5th place. By this definition, he fits. He is one of running's greatest one-hit wonders. Or is he? What if I told you I was lying straight to your face? Not only does winning the World Indoor Championship in the 60-meter immediately after Tokyo break the one-hit wonder label, but through my sick obsession with this sport, I've built a real list of track's greatest one-hit wonders and narrowed it down to 4, each more absurd than the last. And you know what? If I'm completely honest, Jacobs isn't even in the top 10. Truthfully, he's not even the greatest one-hit wonder in men's sprinting. There's no doubt the 80s belong to Carl Lewis. Between 1983 and 1992, he racked up 16 gold medals and 2 silvers at global championships. He won a lot, but it did mean, in a 9-year span, Carl Lewis did lose twice on the world stage. One back in 1991 at the Tokyo World Athletics Championship, in a long jump competition hailed as the greatest long jump competition of all time, in which Mike Powell leapt the still standing world record of 8.95 meters to just beat Carl by a measly 4 centimeters.
That's huge! Oh my goodness, 8 meters 95, that's a world record!
And the other loss, at the 1988 Seoul Olympics to his training partner, Joe DeLoach. Let's set the record straight. Heading into the 1988 Olympics, Carl Lewis was in the middle of a tyrannical run. At the 84 games, he had won gold in the 100, 200, 4x100 and long jump, setting Olympic records in half of those events. And in the years in between, he had only gotten better, running technical world records in both the 100 meters and 200, since the only times faster than his were run at altitude or later redacted due to doping. I don't enjoy buttering up Carl Lewis, but I mention all this to emphasize the type of insurmountable demon he was at the time. While Joe DeLoach was an okay sprinter, he was good on the collegiate circuit at least. He actually won his first NCAA Division I title that year in the 100 meters, after failing to get out the heats the year prior in 1987. But he was looking surprisingly hot in the 200 meters, a race he hadn't actually put too much focus on previously, and at the 1988 US Olympic trials, he would take the US title, finishing with a brutal last 30 meters, and behind him was a peak Carl Lewis.
Staying there, Joe DeLoach beating Carl Lewis to the line. That's an upset,
An upset at the time, but by many thought to be a one-time thing, since Lewis on the world stage has proven himself to be an entirely different beast. And at the 1988 Olympic Games, Lewis would make this clear. At the time, finishing silver, but later upgraded to gold in the 100 meters, and in a world record time after the ban of Ben Johnson. Gold in the long jump, clearing the field just shy of an entire foot. And in the 200 meter, by the curve, he'd be looking in prime position to take his 3rd gold too, if not for Joe DeLoach, having the race of his life.
DeLoach on the side, it's a photograph, it's DeLoach! It's DeLoach, Lewis, Da Silva, Christie, and the time is a new Olympic record as predicted, and DeLoach beats his mentor.
With his trademark, brutal 30-meter kick, DeLoach dethroned Carl Lewis in an insane 1975, equaling Lewis's own personal best, at the time the fastest ever time ran at low altitude. A jaw-dropping performance that, quite frankly, he had no right to run. And afterwards, like the title implies, he never would again. It is astonishing, but Joe DeLoach would never break the 10-second barrier in the 100 meter. He would never even run under 20 seconds again in the 200 meter, and he would never qualify for a global championship again, a through-and-through one-hit wonder. But to be fair, he did win the US Olympic trials before the games, so he was a loose favourite heading in. which couldn't be further from the case for our next athlete, Kenya's Paul Ruto. Ruto had been a relatively competitive runner his whole life, but not quite quick enough for the elite level himself. So instead, for much of his career, he had been employed as a professional pacemaker at elite level meets. That is, until bizarrely, at age 31, in which he finally started putting up good enough times to qualify for races himself. And by 1993, age 33, he would make his first World Athletics Championship as Kenya's third fastest 800 meter runner. Jumping into the semi-finals, the top 2 finishers would qualify for the final, while another 2 athletes would be selected as the fastest losers. And in Semi 1, Kenya's Billy Conchella, the defending world champion, would effortlessly cruise his way to a qualifying spot, looking in some stellar form and demanding even more attention as the already heavy favourite.
Very heavy leg, Conchella wins it. Williams in second place, and the South African Sepeng gets third.
Semi 2, our protagonist Paul Ruto would be seen, teeth grit, form wild, fighting and failing to achieve an automatic qualifying spot, finishing in third, now left hoping to qualify based off of time.
Quick, Tierso's got through, it's fast. Rob gets through, Ruto will get through.
In Semi 3, Kenya's William Tanui, the 1992 Olympic champion, would lead confidently around the final bend, but struggle to hold on to his automatic qualifying spot in a slow semi, meaning by the skin of his teeth, Ruto qualified for the final as the fastest loser. Kenyan running has always had a strong identity of tactical running as a team. Gold is the goal, but it serves more purpose for their nation than individual glory. So 3 Kenyans standing at the starting line of the final, naturally the path to glory was clear. Kajela was the defending world champion who looked in hot form, Tanui was the Olympic champion and an automatic qualifier, while Ruto was a pacemaker at the end of his career, who barely scraped into this final. Ruto would be Kenya's sacrificial lamb.
Away.
He would be sent out to lead the field at a diabolically hot pace, burning the field, while his 2 teammates lay in tow, waiting to strike. And for his country, he would do his job, burning this field, stringing them apart, and rounding the final 150 meters, his face already in agony from leading this race the entire time. But he was determined to do his job to the very end. And he might have actually done it too well, because no one had anything left to catch him.
Won't get him. Ruto all the way. Beats Tierso and Conchella. What an upset.
Well, what a big upset. He was the pacemaker. He was supposed to have been the sacrificial lamb from the information that we had had prior to the race.
Believe it or not, of the 12 professional races he ran that season, this was Paul Ruto's lone win. After a decade of pacemaking, at age 33, he would win his first world championship, and it would also be his last world championship, because by the same time next year, he was retired. A ridiculously wacky win, but I can assure you, not the wackiest by any means, because that title goes to one of my favourite athletes of all time, John Ngugi. Alright, let's lay down the law. John Ngugi was a cross-country great, winning by the largest margins ever seen in World Cross ever. 5 world titles, 4 of them consecutive, but he had one problem. When it came to running on the track, his one-dimensional cross-country tactics of run faster than everyone else simply didn't work anymore. The best example of this was at the 1987 World Athletics Championship in the men's 5,000 meter, in which he would employ his usual cross-country tactics, leading 90% of the race, half of it from lane 2. For what reason? I don't know, maybe he didn't know lane 2 meant he was running further than everyone else. And by the final lap, with the extra distance clearly in his legs, he would fade from 1st to 12th. This was basically his career on the track, he just couldn't hack it. Except once. At the 1988 Seoul Olympics, he would revise his hardball run faster than everyone else strategy to just sprint throughout. Unironically, this is what his coach advised him to do. Technically, it is better than running in lane 2. Between Ngugi and his coach, these two didn't have much going on between their heads, just pure running talent. And after riding the pack for 5 minutes of this Olympic final, he would slowly put his plan into action, working his lead, and working it more, until by 5 minutes into this race, Ngugi had 40 meters on the rest of the pack.
As As we come back with just under 7.5 laps to go, John Ngugi has made the break. He's out in front by almost 40 meters, maybe 50 by now.
Holy shit, he's a genius. Only one other runner, Domingos Castros, would make an effort to reel him in, but fail with 20 meters still left to gain. And when the final lap bell rang, just like his cross-country races over 12 kilometers of mud and rolling hills, no one was within his orbit.
Fast pace, hold on, and be able to win this race from the front. This is really a great race.
This was one of the most dominant wins ever seen on the Olympic stage. And alright, I can feel the eyeballs glaring me through the screen. Career-wise, he wasn't a one-hit wonder. I mentioned it earlier, he had 5 World Cross Country titles. But as a track purist, I want you to consider this. After his 1988 Olympic gold medal, the most dominant win in this event mind you, he would never even qualify for another Olympics or World Championship again. Meaning his next best result was that 12th place finish from 1987. And then nothing. In my opinion, a one-hit wonder, but I understand if you want to get back to the more traditional one-hit wonders. So let's talk about the athlete who entered their Olympics with the lowest world ranking and still won.
Потом расскажем сейчас гимн Беларуси, слушай.
Before the 2004 Athens Olympic Games, Belarusian sprinter Yulia Nestorenko was almost entirely unknown. In 2003, she ranked 107th in the world in the women's 100 meters. Her personal best stood at 11.29 seconds, and even that was out of reach during her 2003 season, where she only managed 11.45 for the year. And her resume on the international stage mainly consisted of appearances on Belarus's 4x100 meter relay squads at European Championships. She was, by every metric, as underground as a sprinter could be. So when the women's 100 meters began at Athens, the shock was immediate. She won every single preliminary round, clocking blazing times that toppled major names in the sport. In the heats, she stunned an aging Merlene Ottey, running 10.94, personal best, national record, and her first time under 11 seconds. Then in the semi-finals, she edged out a rising Veronica Campbell at the line in 10.93, and both of them leaving behind the year's world leader Ivette Lalova, who had run 10.77 just a month earlier. Just through the rounds, Nestorenko had worked her way from ranked 107th in the world to a medal favourite. You could say by the final, her work had already been done. Previous global champions Marion Jones and Katarina Thanau were absent, so Nestorenko, from nowhere, had become the woman to watch. All she needed to do was run her race.
Ferguson, que j'avais oublié, qui est la plus âgée aussi, peut-être un petit peu mieux que les autres.
Voilà Williams qui pour l'instant est en tête avec à la corde également Lalova Nestorenko. Est-ce qu'elle va y arriver? Est-ce qu'elle va passer? Oui, Nestorenko 10 secondes et 84 centièmes avec un...
Just like the men's 100 meter at the 2020 Tokyo Olympics, where Lamont Marcell Jacobs took gold in a field missing the usual pedigree, the Athens final was similarly marked by absences. Aging stars, suspensions, early eliminations. But that being said, an Olympic 100 meter title is never easy, no matter the circumstances. And across 2 days, Nestorenko produced the 4 best races of her entire career. She ran sub-11 4 times, her first ever and her last ever. Because outside those few days in Athens, she would never approach anything near that level again. Across the remaining 12 years of her career, she would only barely dip under 11.1 seconds one other time. And by 2005, she was out of the world's fastest conversation for good, qualifying for her last ever global championship final and finishing dead last.
Se ne va, torna sotto la rompa molto tesa, la Williams, Lauryn Williams!
Possibly one of athletics' purest and greatest one-hit wonders, in my opinion. Obviously this topic is subjective. You might not agree with my criteria, that and I didn't choose anyone pre-1980s, since competitions were sparse and athletes would win Olympic golds and then just return to their normal day job. So for those freaky athletic historians out there, let me know your favourite one-hit wonders so I can shit-talk them in the comments. As always, I appreciate everyone who made it here, and I'll see you in the next silly upload. Bye.